Hello and welcome to It's About Youth. I'm Soraya Mia.
And I'm Fei Kwan.
As we anticipate the tabling of Budget 2023 on October 7th, we will be discussing on the show today on how to support Malaysian entrepreneurs, especially the youths and the women.
And that's really important because, as we know, SMEs make up 97% of all businesses in the country. So they're really the backbone of Malaysia's economy.
On the show today, we have Yan Lim, who is the CEO of iOli Communications Sdn Bhd, as well as Chris Daniel Wong, who is the president of the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, my bad. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, both of you.
I'd like to start off maybe, Yan Lim, perhaps you could tell us about your story as an entrepreneur and what sort of challenges did you face as a young female business owner and, as we know, a mother of four.
Definitely, thanks, Faye. So I ventured into the world of entrepreneurship by accident. So I've always been working in the industry as a PR practitioner for many years, for over 15 years. And then 8 years ago, I was tasked to look after the PR aspects of One ASEAN Entrepreneurship Summit, One AES, which was the largest entrepreneurship event in the Southeast Asia. So after that, I needed payment and I registered a company, and fast forward from a freelancer, it turns into a company. So I became an entrepreneur accidentally. The challenges and the struggles that I faced, the real struggles and challenges I faced as a newborn was
the information, the lack of awareness.
Yeah, the lack of awareness on how to run a business.
Right.
Rather, it was quickly addressed because of the support that I received from the ecosystem and the people that I knew back then.
Right, understood. Well, thank you for pointing out that. Actually brings me to the next question. You know, the ILO actually found that Malaysian women entrepreneurs especially lack the awareness and the information to financial services and products. Sometimes they have, you know, limited capital, or also don't know how to apply to these assistance or the financial services. So this, perhaps, Chris, you could explain how could this be more accessible, these financial services, the information to it, how could the government make it more accessible to all, especially or including this group?
I think to answer that questions, I think we're going to look at 2 or 3 aspects. I think first and foremost, there is a lot of information on the internet about financial services. But I look at it from a different angle. Quite a number of women entrepreneurs, when they first started, they are a bit more cautious. They want to be in debt, especially female entrepreneurs with children, right? Because they felt that if they are in debt, they have another set of burdens actually. So it's kind of a character of personal preferences. But I always encourage not only women, but also the youth. When you build your businesses, obviously you build your businesses from 3 types of capitals, which is your family, your friends, and your fans, your 3F. Yeah? So from there, you grow your business. But after 18 months, I encourage them to take a loan from the bank, whether it's 50,000 or 100,000 or 200,000, primarily because you need to build your credit profile. Right? As you borrow from the bank, you return it on time. Whether you need it or you don't need it, you still have to get some sort of credit, especially a start credit card. All right? But credit card is more of personal. But when you have a business, it's registered. It's a registered entity with the SSM. So then you got to profile your company, not profile yourself. So a lot of people thought branding or profiling is about themselves. It's part of it, but profiling the company is the important part. So that brings me to the third part. So when you get a loan from the bank or financial institution for your companies, you begin to profile it. Then from that point onwards, the bank will actually have its own system whereby they say, this guy from this company will be ready for more loans, bigger loans and so forth. Then the officer will start to speak to you and say, hey, I think you need machinery. I'm just saying, for example, right? So that you can increase your output capacity and so forth. And then you sort of like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I need it actually. So you're going to take another loan. So it's very fundamentally important that entrepreneurs, whether they are females or they are youth, for them to understand about credit profiling.
That's a very important point, yeah?
We know that women made up about 20% of all the SMEs in Malaysia. What about youths, Daniel? Do you have any figures on that?
I think according to the startups that is registered with Cradle, if I just want to cite on it, there is about 3,000 plus. All right, if I'm not mistaken, 3,007. If I'm not mistaken.
These are the registered ones.
Yeah, that is registered as startups. So now, these startup that registered themselves, they are actually registered with SSM. Either they're Sendirian Berhad or they're PLT, Limited Liability Partnership, or Perusahaan Liability Terhad. But SSM categorized them as SME, right? But they are actually startups.
Okay, so this startups and businesses, actually I would like to ask Yan Lim, because you deal with a lot of perhaps startups and also entrepreneurs. What is actually the difference, between startups and businesses?
This is very interesting. So I was just having a conversation with a friend, right? The definition of startups and what differs startups and entrepreneurs, right? So yes, you're right. So we deal with a lot of startups. So a big portion of our clientele are actually the startups, tech startups to be more precise, locally as well as regionally. So I'm not sure if there is out there, or I'm not sure if Cradle or MDEC or any of the bodies out there have a clear, crisp definition of the difference between startups and entrepreneurs. But at the end of the day, like what Chris said just now, everyone, when they start a business, they register themselves in SSM. Right? There is no, I'm not sure whether there is a box there that they can sort of define themselves, whether they are a startup or a business. They are just a business, right? And now coming back into the world, the reality of it. Some people, they want to position themselves, profile themselves as a startup. Whether or not they have a hint of technology or innovation in their business model, or they don't have that. And then there are some people who just call themselves as entrepreneurs, business owners. So they start a business, it can be brick and mortar, it can be digitally infused business, but there are people out there who just call themselves business owners, entrepreneurs. And then there is this ecosystem, or there is this trend today where everyone is calling themselves startups. Again, people out there may think that those who position themselves as startups are those who have a hint of technology in their business, in their products, in their services, or innovation, or they are disrupting something. They're providing this disruptive solutions to problems, something new to the public.
So I also understand that perhaps it depends on how they want to position themselves. But also, Yan also mentioned that it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be disruptive to be a startup. Perhaps we'd like to know, digital entrepreneurships. That's also something new, and a lot of youths, including women, are going into this, digital entrepreneurship. So, how could we actually grow this sector?
Yep, especially going into IR 4.0.
So, if you look at digital startups or entrepreneurships, the definition is quite clear. It is actually to disrupt, right? To disrupt the current industries that they are operating. So disruption means you are actually very flat. The things that you do is very mono, but then suddenly when you comes in with a new solution, it just disrupt. So there will be an exponential growth, right? Like XY graph, exponential growth. So that is disruption. So there are two kinds of digital startups in the country. I want to quote what Taufik have mentioned recently in a venture forum organized by MAFCAT actually. So a lot of Malaysians actually went into digital businesses providing platform services. And platform services, professionally and personally, I don't quite like it because there is so many platform services in Southeast Asia. Now to quote, nothing bad, all right? You got Lazada, you got Shopee. So these are platform services.
Something like e-commerce?
E-commerce, yeah.
Yep.
So some people don't call themselves e-commerce, they call themselves aggregator. So it's a different definition, but the population is so small, all right? So then everybody's trying to do same thing. It's called, red ocean. So you don't sort of like grow from there, all right? But then there is another second part that they actually really disrupt by providing value-added, not services, but value-added things into a startup. Like for example, there is a company, I don't want to name them, they build an app for digital health screening booking. So they connect with the various hospitals. It may seem like platform, but it's a good thing because not many hospitals will have digital booking, online booking. You still got to call manually, ask whether the doctor is around, and then do your booking manually and so forth. But this one they connect. And how they do it is just fantastic. It's all AI, artificial intelligence, which brings to IR 4.0 actually. So those kind of things that we need.
Chris, I'd like to tap into that because when you talk about e-commerce and digitalization, a lot of these things are very, I would say, very linked to the youth right now, and we know that they are key to the country's development. When we touch on budget 2023, what sort of incentives maybe should we include in the budget to kind of encourage youths to join entrepreneurship?
That's a good question. We do have a lot of grant and incentive for the youth, but what we are lacking of is policing. I just give a very simple example. Prior to the pandemic, there was a big hoorah about food truck. But where are they today? A lot of people started food truck, but then today, I mean, because of pandemic, most of them are gone, but they could make a comeback easily, all right? But yet many people who venture into it doesn't want to come back. So whatever the problem is, we can speak about it later, but the policing part is important. We give grants, we give resources and facility, but we don't have the policing part, continuous education, continuous motivations, continuous monitoring to make sure that they excel in whatever they are doing. So sometimes the youth may have the drive for a while, but after that they find that when the tough gets going, they also just kind of like, wither away. And then they're like, tak apalah, buat benda lain lah.
Okay.
So the policing part is important. So it's not so much on the grant and the facility actually.
What about Yan? Just to kind of wrap up our conversation today, with what Chris has mentioned, how youths, they kind of follow a trend, and you deal with a lot of youths, especially in what you do in your PR agency. How do you think we could sort of move forward and to kind of like empower them to stay in the industry and to keep on trying, because we know businesses, you have to keep on stay motivated along with the tough situations that we are going through right now. So what do you have to say about this?
So, well, I'm a mother of four, so I will speak like a mother, right? So there are a lot of interest to actually become a startup out there, to be your own boss, and the youth, the aspiring, the up-and-coming entrepreneurs and startups. Whatever that they choose to do are very important, that they should be able to possess the right skills, the right skill set, the right experience, the right mindset before they do anything. I'm not even just referring to being a startup or entrepreneur. So they have to do that before they decide to do this. And obviously they have to be part of the community. They have to actually turn into the community to the right people, because like what Chris said just now, I would like to echo what Chris said. There are really a lot of initiatives that have been initiated by either the government or associations, all these government agencies out there. Even in budget 2022, government announced a lot of things, right? The government announced a lot of programs, like there was this My Kasih Capital program, the Women Leadership Foundation. There was also all these monetary aids allocations that was funneled through BSN, Agrobank. There was these programs by Tekunita, Mara. There's really a lot out there. But the question that they need to ask themselves, or what we need to ask them ourselves, is whether these aids are actually really helping the people out there, or they were just announced and there, or if they have helped a certain select few of people, whether that's right. Because they were supposed to actually help the general public or the targeted audience, which is the women entrepreneurs and the youth.
Yes, so I guess that definitely wraps up the conversation, and we hope that all of this assistance and help will reach out to those who actually need it. So that's all for the show today. My name is Soraya Mia.
My name is Fei Kwan.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, and we'll see you in the next episode.